Did Edgar Allan Poe really die from rabies? Baltimore, October 3, 1849. Joseph W. Walker stumbles upon a delirious and disheveled man on the street. That man was famed writer Edgar Allan Poe. What stood out to many of the onlookers was that he was wearing clothes that did not appear to be his own. While he was usually seen wearing a black wool suit, this time he was wearing tattered old rags and a straw hat, and seemed to be intoxicated. Poe managed to tell Walker that he needed help from his friend J.E. Snodgrass, and Walker quickly wrote a letter and was admitted to Washington College Hospital, where his condition rapidly declined. He died only 4 days later on October 7, 1849. His official cause of death was reported as congestion of the head, which was a common terminology for alcohol poisoning. However, this has been heavily disputed over time, and there are numerous theories surrounding his mysterious death. Aside from alcohol poisoning, other theories include illness, rabies, taking his own life, or even falling victim to a phenomenon known as cooping, a form of election fraud where citizens would be kidnapped, beaten, possibly drugged or given alcohol, and forced to vote repeatedly for the kidnapper's candidate of choice. This theory isn't actually too far-fetched, considering the fact that he was found in the street gutters outside a tavern that was hosting ballot casting for election candidates. Especially since the cooping kidnappers would also change the clothes of their targeted victims so they wouldn't be recognized for casting yet another illegal vote. This could very well explain why he was wearing different clothes than he normally would. Both J.E. Snodgrass and Poe's attending physician at the hospital, John Moran, had very different accounts on what they believe happened to Poe. Snodgrass was convinced that when he saw him at the tavern that night, he was sure that he was heavily intoxicated with alcohol, while Poe's Dr. Moran stated that he never smelled any alcohol on Poe or detected any recent alcohol abuse when he was attending to him in the hospital. Over a century later, physicians at the University of Maryland Medical Center in 1996 argued that Poe's symptoms were classic of the rabies virus. Dr. R. Michael Benitez reported that in his last moments, described by his attending physician, Dr. Moran, who was the last person to see Poe alive, he was delirious, with tremors and hallucinations, and would slip in and out of a coma, going from calm and lucid to turning combative and requiring restraint. One of the most damning telltale symptoms being his inability to drink water, a terrifying characteristic of late-stage rabies virus. Even though Dr. Moran's account of Poe's last moments are very much scrutinized because he didn't seem to have a very reliable account of what really happened, and he seemed to change details about Poe's hospital stay over time, one of the things that he was very adamant about was that he was sure that Poe did not die from alcohol poisoning. Before Poe was buried, locks of his hair were taken and now sit at the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore, Maryland, and the Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia. And in 2006, the hair was tested for heavy metal poisoning. If Poe really did die of consumption, it was assumed that he would have had unusually high levels of lead in his hair sample, since the process of fermenting alcohol at the time always involved lead ending up in the finished product. However, the test results didn't show levels high enough of lead to suggest any type of exposure other than what was typical at the time, leaving many to wonder if Dr. Moran may have been telling the truth when he reported that he did not believe that the poet died from the result of alcohol poisoning, while simultaneously adding some veracity to the fact that it may have been rabies after all. In the end, with a death so clouded in mystery, we may never know the truth about what really happened to Edgar Allan Poe.